in their list.
It's a great point because Ricardo's just picked up the brand new Henry Chow list, just a week away from Portland. So incorporating the Rabska means that Ricardo has not had much time to practice with this new build, as we see some prize cards coming down already. The Scream Tail found in the prizes, including one of those Pokemon, the Counter Catcher as well. And the Briar in the prizes for Fabrizio, not always going to be an issue, depending on how Gardevoird plays out its lines. So I think right now the Screamtail, the bigger issue between the two players. But here we go, getting into our second top four match then. We see the fist bump and it's liftoff.
And we are off with Fabrizio going first, which is typically what these Noctowl engine decks wants to do. And also the Gardevoird deck wants to go second. We're talking about team evolutions. Previously was Budgie who you want to go for. Gets to bench the Hoothoot. Doesn't look like there's any outs for a potential Fein Rotom, but there is Earthen Vessel. You can Fein out. You can be benching the Miyu. You can be benching that Pheasantipity to make sure that you actually can try and restart for a few cards. Because remember one thing, Noctowl doesn't work without a Tera Pokemon in play. And right now, as it looks of it, the Fairy's not Tera, Mew's not Tera, Latia's not Tera. We need to find a Tera Pokemon. And it's the issue that some of these Tera Pokemon, well, Tera decks have with Noctowl, especially when you're playing Raging Bolt. You need that Ogerpon down. In this situation, well, either Pikachu or any of the Ogerpons will do, but neither of them are in play.
Yeah, you play a huge amount of Terrestrial EX Pokemon, not just because they give different attacking lines and type coverages, but also because it's essential to unlock the Jewel Seeker ability of Noctowl on turn 2. That's really what makes this deck tick. The Jewel Seeker allowing you to search your deck for 2 trainer cards and immediately grab them to your hand. Working with guarantees rather than working with draw and sort of dump and see and hope allows you to really script your turns a little bit more carefully. In this instance, without access to Terastal, instead Fabrizio is going to have to grab a couple energy out of the deck. Will then probably just attach an energy to the Lily's Clefairy that he has in hand and will bench. I don't think he can even draw any cards from Mew EX right now, but might be reliant on it on the following turn.
Yeah, and when you're looking at a matchup like this, when you're playing against Gardevoird, you have to be putting pressure on early. As we described, Gardevoird was one of these decks where if you give it more time, the more time it gets, the better the deck gets. So yeah, just an attachment to Lily's Clefairy, and we're over to Ricardo, who wants to be doing everything that they can to get all of their basic Pokemon in play. Couple of routes. Relor is really important for this matchup when we're talking the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon can get into the play out of nowhere. So potentially want to be seeing that Arven for Team Evolution, Buddy Poffin, some energy cards that I think we do already have a little bit in hand for Ricardo. And, you know, using this nest ball to try and scout out what they have in prize, and then we'll get the bad news that the Screamtail is out there.
Yeah, that's bad news to start things off, but at least there's low enough EX Pokemon around that the Gardevoird itself can get into the mix when it has to in this matchup, especially if Monkey Dory can heal off damage off the Gardevoird. It can even sit out of range of that Pikachu EX, provided you find enough of them. Ricardo's going through his opening deck search, making sure he knows what he has access to, but as you said, Jesper, the Gardevoird deck operates by grabbing that Stage 2 Pokemon, and Psychic Embrace is the big enabler of the deck. As long as we can discard these Psychic Energy, they work as a lovely reservoir for you to access for the remainder of the game. The Drifloon that's currently in the active position deals more damage based on the damage counters it has on itself. That Balloon Blast can be one of the highest damage output options within the deck, actually, when you add Bravery Charm into the mix. So this is a great attacking option for you as a single prizer. Also weaving in these Monkey Dory to Adrenabrain around the board. Certainly looking at targeting down Hoothoot throughout the entire game is one of the key reasons why Ricardo can have a good time here. But as you said, if we have more access to basics alongside these Rolts, if we can sculpt that TM evolution, Arabska would be a massive find in the opening, because it would shut down one of the most aggressive lines that Terastal Box has access to, which is using that Wellspring Ogerpon EX.
But you already see the Earthen Vessel discarding that Iona, already having the Relor in hand, getting to search some of these few energies on, and Ricardo did look through the deck to see where are my team evolutions at, and yes, they are within the deck. We just have to see, well, the first Psychic Energy you can discard is a really great start to that, but it's also really awkward. Whenever you attach the Drifloon to get the team evolution, yes, you're getting that great effect off it, but since you just have an energy stuck to the Drifloon that you have to retreat off, since that has to be an energy that needs to be put into play with Psychic Embrace for it to further the damage that the Drifloon can do.
Yeah, so often you see Gardevoird promoting a Pokemon it won't end up attacking with, because you can use that damage that you require to then Monkey Dory around that. It's a big Professor's research.
Play here.
3 copies of TM Evolution to find here. That was the innovation that Michael Davidson and Henry Chow incorporated. Will we see it from this 7?
Yes, we do see it, and we get to be able to team evolution. Either double Ralts or Relor plus Ralts. I guess here when you're playing against the Terrestrialization box that you really want to get that Rapska in play, that destroys the option for Fabrizio to take 2 prizes in one go against these baby, like, mini Pokemon. So, yeah, really, really beautiful grab here from the research, and getting free energies in discard pile turn 1. Huge.
Instantly pointing to Relor, in addition to one of the Rolts here. There is a Curler in the prize cards as well, remember? Although, so it has to be
Points to Rolts and Relor. So, yeah, we're going to be seeing Rapska and Curlia hitting play here. One Curlia being prized, although we are playing 2 of them, so we can get a Curlia and a Rapska in play. And to boot, we're also playing one of the rare candies. So just in case that this Curlia could end up going down, it will be just all right if we can then get into that rare candy. But it leaves us with a chance to get into play. But yeah, Rapska hitting play for the first time this weekend on stream, and such a powerful Pokemon to have on the bench. We don't currently have any bench protection besides Rapska, but Rapska does everything. No effects on the bench Pokemon. No damage counters on effects on the bench Pokemon. Deals with Dragonbolt. Not that we have to think about this for the rest of the tournament, but we get to think about the Wellspring Mask Ogre Paw instead.
And now comes a big decision for Fabrizio. Committing the energy attachment to Lily's Clefairy, and where will the boss's orders point? It's going to the Rapska. Recognition that Spherical Shield is so frustrating to deal with. One draw from Mew EX now opens up. Energy switch is not helpful in the slightest, so instead we're going to try and attempt to see more cards by simply taking prizes, and Lily's Clefairy EX is going to get a big attack in and initiate the prize race in this game number 1.
And this could go very fast. Typically we don't see Gardevoird going very fast, but with the free energies already in the discard pile, we get to see Gardevoird charge itself up, doing exactly 190 damage with the Miracle Force. And Joe, how much HP does the Clefairy have again?
Unfortunately, it's exactly 190.
Oh no, so it means that then Fabrizio have to start answering with Pikachu. Not a well set up board. If you want to be KOing this Gardevoird, you have to like go really, really, really fast constantly. And that's why that with the team evolution, you're suddenly just pushing the gas down to the floor and making this game go as fast as possible, where Fabrizio currently at the moment is not in a place where they can just tack along as they've usually wanted to do.
This is a wonderful position for Ricardo now. The Ultra Ball already in the hand. No issues finding Gardevoird EX. Already has access to a number of those Psychic Energy. I believe there's also INO in hand as well. I know Fabrizio didn't use Jewel Seeker at all, so possibly Ricardo would like to sit on this hand, but also seeing more options, starting to find your own Darkness Energy in Monkey Dory is definitely worthwhile to give yourself even more control over this board. Let's see where Ricardo wants to go with it. We already know he has a 2 prize card KO mapped out. This is how else he can push this board state.
He would solely, in Ricardo's shoes, be very afraid of like the Gardevoird being knocked out by potential Pikachu, even though there's not much to show from Fabrizio's board, but just a knocked out can actually get you into that spot. He still needs the Tera Pokemon. Yes, there could be that Pikachu, for example, being top decked, and then you can go knockdown into Crispin plus the Crystal,
much,
and then there's a knockout. It's not much you actually need to do so. So Ricardo gonna go Iono, try to grab themselves a few more pieces to try, and potentially this Clefairy can also get to go down to, well, the Drifloon itself, perhaps, since Ricardo doesn't want to leave that Gardevoird in harm's way unless absolutely necessary.
Couple interesting cards drawn. No combination of Rare Candy plus Stage 2, but that's at least come to the hand. As supporters for the following turn, no access to Monkey Dory either, so the board's not improving too much here.
No, something that's actually really good for Ricardo is drawing that rare candy. The bottom 2 prize cards are Ultra Ball plus Counter Catcher, meaning that if they get to keep the hand afterwards, even if the Gardevoird gets knocked out, Ricardo gets a nice surprise in the prizes with that Ultra Ball being able to be pulled with what we would recognize as the first 2 prizes. Usually players would be picking their prizes from the bottom, which means that, yeah, that Ultra Ball plus a Counter Catcher could have come into effect. And it's really good for Ricardo's that if they take 2 prizes here with the Gardevoird and the Clefairy, and Fabrizio strikes back, it would be 3-4, meaning that Ricardo's going to be able to use the Counter Catcher again, and thereby being able to take out Pokemon like Mew, instead of actually having to hit into the Pikachu, because you can only knock out Pikachu if you have Monkey Dory to boot at the same time, meaning you can go around that issue and kind of leave it for another time. And also if the Topaz Balls are used, well, the energies get discarded straight away, so you can kind of start to go after other pieces of the setup.
Yes, by thinking so far ahead here in how the eventual game will pan out. And that's exactly what Ricardo's doing in this instance as well. Actually shoving a bunch of energy onto the Drifloon and trying to protect his Gardevoird EX a little bit more. It doesn't quite KO the Lily's Clefairy, but it deals 180 damage with Balloon Blast, and that will set you up for Monkey Dory later down the line. So not even wanting to initiate the prize race right now, just prioritizing keeping your Gardevoird EX out of harm's way and using one of your single prize Pokemon in this instance.
So that's really beautiful here is that you're also not allowing Fabrizio to use festivity. You want to be able to control the prize raise as much as possible. And you can use that Monkey Dory perhaps the next turn whenever you're promoting Gardevoird to just retreat it again like you usually want to. You can spawn those damage counters that you can be using with the Monkey Dory to take that knockout on Clefairy, and then thereafter take something like the Mew off the board or whatever Fabrizio shoves in the active spot. It's a beautiful play, and also making sure that you're behind on prizes typically here, since you want to have the counter catcher for as long as possible.
Ultra Ball will grant access for Fabrizio to finally find a terrestrial Pokemon, and with the Rabsca dealt with, Wellspring Ogerpon EX once again becomes an option. And that's actually coming straight into the hand here with Ultra Ball. I believe Fabrizio has an Iono in this hand. With that one floating Hoot Hoot, you can manually attach Sparkling Crystal and Energy Switch to still find a way to use the Torrential Pump this turn. So it's not that costly that he can't use a Crispin here, but he's still hoping that after shuffling up here and seeing a fresh 5 cards that he has to still find a Noctowl piece.
Yeah, he can get to restart for 1 before doing so. Gets that. No, we can still, yeah, we can still bench a Hoot Hoot, we can still bench the Wellspring, and we can still get 1 card before the Iono. So we make sure we get to see as many cards as possible, even if we go ahead and restart into something like the Noctowl, it will be fine, but just goes ahead and plays the Iono in case that after the Iono we can play our hand down below 3, we still get to restart and have our hand as full as possible after the Iono. Typically something you see from decks like Gardevoird in the past would typically use Iono and then use Refinement afterwards, which is kind of the same trick that Fabrizio is going for. Getting the Ultra Ball, which is going to be able to hit that Noctowl
pretty nice,
if he so wishes to.
Yeah, picks up the Energy Switch for free as well. So possibly we can find a way towards another Noctowl for later. You Ultra Ball grab Noctowl, but we still need the manual attachment for the turn as well, in addition to the Sparkling Crystal. So you'd have to go Earthen Vessel plus Crystal, and then you're left with Crispin plus Professor's Research. You have to discard the Research here and then draw 2 more with Restart at the end of this, holding just 1 Crispin. It's a tough spot once again for Fabrizio here. All because his opening wasn't ideal. Yeah, sacrificing Professor's Research, I think, is the correct move.
I do agree here, Joe. And one good thing for Fabrizio in this case is that they are running the full 4 suite of Crispin, really pondering if it should be double Crispin being discarded or Research. But it just hurts so much for this deck, wanting to play Crispin every single turn, just as much as something like Roaring Moon wants to play Sada every single turn to accelerate these energies, because they do recognize that every single turn, energies are going to disappear from the board, whether that's evaporating it with Wellspring Mask Ogerpon or just getting knocked out. They have to keep cycling these energies into play. And that's why Ricardo, with something like Iono plus Knockout, or removing these Hoot Hoot pieces from board with something like Screamtail later in the game, could be doing a really good job at. But yeah, here, grabbing the Noctowl, going to be able to use that Jewel Seeker, and, you know, Joe, pretty much guessing that there has to be a Sparkling Crystal, has to be an Earthen Vessel for the attachment, or a Night Stretcher.
That will work out. I think we even spent the Earthen Vessel in the early stages, so the Night Stretcher will be that final puzzle piece to grab. I believe there's a Grass Energy in the discard pile right now to recover. So it's a little bit of work, but we have managed to get a Torrential Pump off here. This is probably one of the easiest lines for Fabrizio to take a 2-prize turn.
And can go ahead and shuffle back 2 Grass Energies with Torrential Pump, leaving those Grass Energies in deck to be used with a Teal Mask Ogerpon later in the game, or potentially going for the Psychic Energy. I'm not too sure which one I like the most. They are, though, playing the Super Rods and get that back.
It keeps the grass around to maybe E-switch if the Clefairy is still somehow on the board for another turn, so then you can Crispin, Energy Switch, and get a Pikachu out of nowhere. So keeping all lines open here. We're shuffling up, but we probably will be going back into the deck with the Torrential Pump, but we do have draw from Mew EX.
We do draw from Mew EX, that's why we have to shuffle deck. Typically, these players then want to shortcut, if they don't need to be drawing any cards from the deck. Of course, here, Restart's going to be able to net 2 cards, it looks like, and then you're going to be able to Torrential Pump afterwards. Getting a Nest Ball and a Grass Energy pretty decent for the upcoming turns. You definitely do want these Nest Balls to be able to continue on with your setup. And yeah, Torrential Pump, 2 prizes, exactly what you want to see after taking out that Rabsca, which is the piece in this matchup that you don't want to be seeing as Fabrizio. So kind of getting around the Rabsca, and doesn't look like it's going to be a real issue for the rest of the game, of course.
Based on the prize race, it looks like Fabrizio is miles ahead, but don't forget that Ricardo has already set up 180 damage on that Lily's Clefairy EX, so it still feels like if Ricardo can have a decent turn here and still maintain his Gardevoird EX out of the line of fire, he's still going to put himself in a fantastic position. We know Gardevoird EX is amazing at taking multi-prize turns. We don't see the Ino in hand. Instead, it's the Arven that Ricardo is debating here. There's also the secret box in hand as well, I believe, but it seems like Arven is the go-to supporter in this case.
One thing I want to be seeing from Ricardo this turn is something like some Monkey Dories.
Oh, for sure.
Start to get that into play and start, you know, enabling themselves to start getting these multi-prize turns. Could, for example, go for a 6-prize turn in 2 turns if enough monkeys see the board. It's all depending, though, on the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon. The Arven can go ahead and get a Braver Charm you can actually put onto a Monkey Dory to make sure it's out of the range from the Torrential Pump, which would be amazing in this case here. You can leave Fabrizio at the full board, needing to go for Area 0 and then charging up a Pikachu if the Gardevoird attacks. So it's going to be super interesting to see what line for Ricardo takes, because there's amongst 10 different lines that could be taken here, which are all actually pretty decent. That's the strength you have with Gardevoird. You have so many, well, you have so many different ways of going about it, yet it's always hard to find the exact right one.
The option from Arven is the TM Evolution plus Night Stretcher. Maybe some of this is fodder, even, for even still using Secret Box this turn, fitting the deck with the Arven first and then just holding more supporters for later. Could be an option. It does look like
the way that Ricardo's feigning the cards towards the top of the deck, that you want to take this Team Evolution. Very useless at the current minute of the game, so you're going to be able to, play the Secret Box, discard Artisan, because you can get another Artisan out of deck potentially, discard the Team Evolution, double of them, because they're pretty much useless at this point, and start getting these cards you want for setup. Already does have a Darkness Energy in hand, which enables the activation of a Monkey Dory, so you could be starting to set up a 6-prize turn potentially during your next turn, although you do really need to get an attacker that isn't Gardevoird in this case, because Gardevoird is the big enabler of this damage we played around with.
Yeah, the Night Stretcher, I believe, is already in that hand. That was a piece taken from the Arven, so I think we could even be going back into Drifloon perhaps here and attacking with it once again. I do love the call out for Bravery Charm on Monkey Dory. The deck list of Henry is only 2 Monkey Dory, and one of them is in the prizes, but still just trying to develop Darkness Energy Monkey Dory is still so integral here. And in fact, Ricardo could even attempt to find the second one from prize cards by using Adrenabrain on that Lily's Clefairy EX. So still has to map out a lot.
One Monkey Dory see 4 prizes being taken during these 2 turns, putting some damage onto either the Torrential Pump Ogerpon this turn, and then next turn being able to take out the Clefairy. Since the Ogerpon is the biggest threat with the Sparkling Crystal in play. But yeah, we do see it. Artisan gets that first Monkey Dory. And what I'm going to think we're going to be seeing here is, Drifloon is a very nice attacker into this spot. Although I only want to be seeing that Drifloon doing 180 damage, since you can power up the 180 up to 210 with the usage of Gardevoird and Monkey Dory. We do see the Night Stretcher for the Drifloon exactly. And where does the Bravery Charm go? It's going to go straight to the Drifloon, it seems. So you can grab 4 prizes on the Ogerpon, plus the Clefairy on bench. I would, though, like the Bravery Charm to be attached to Monkey Dory, since that's just an integral piece in all of this matter.
Although we know that there's a jamming tower in Fabrizio's list. Ricardo may not yet be aware of that. So one of the sneaky tech cards that Fabrizio has on offer might be coming into play in this game number 1 in our top 4 here in Bologna. Let's do some Psyche Embrace shenanigans. 4 damage counters onto Gardevoird for the 2 Psyche Energy attached, then immediately retreated off. We'll see this Drifloon getting nice and in range for an instant KO on the Wellspring Ogerpon. Is Ricardo getting aggressive now? Is it time to take 4 prizes this turn, or are we saving it for later?
That's indeed a good question, Joe. Drifloon could also have gone counter catch on you to leave it out of range for being jamming tower KO'd. Although if Ricardo decides to knock out this Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, needs to be putting 30 onto it.
Here we go.
The 30 down to Clefairy takes the knockout here, and I'm reckoning that there has to be 4 energies attached to that Drifloon now to be able to take the knockout. Or you could potentially go route of taking out Hoot Hoot, although that does not follow within your prize race. So putting the 4 energies onto Drifloon, 80 damage going to go on. 80 times 3, 240, gets the knockout there.
is the argument here that because there's 10 damage on Gardevoird EX, theoretically it could be dealt with in a turn. So now you remove all the energy off the board and just say that my Drifloon's a big enough threat that you can't ignore this card. Possibly that's in the thinking of Ricardo, as he goes down to just 2 prize cards remaining, with a Drifloon very heavily powered up. It's a big question mark for Fabrizio now.
I'm telling you, the combo that has to work for this game to end on this turn has to be Jamming Tower, Pikachu, Ogre, Teal Mask Ogre Pawn, Teal Dance, Energy Switch, Crispin, and Counter Catcher to take out that Gardevoird. That is all the pieces that you need, but it's a lot that you would need, and I don't think that combo currently is possible with the amount of cards that Fabrizio has to himself, but it's technically possible. That's why I'm putting it out there. Although with the Lightning being prized as well, it's a bit harder to get to when you're just playing one Lightning Energy, meaning that that Pikachu is not going to be an option for this current turn.
Well, already this Jamming Tower is being spied by Fabrizio in the deck. So clearly it's on his mind. The Briar could have been a different avenue. Of course, we're so far away from that, and it's in the prize cards. But it's something that we have to track throughout the remainder of this top 4 as we get into the next few games. But we're coming to the climax of this game number 1. And Fabrizio's in this position where he has access to some Nest Ball, so we can find a Terrestrial Pokemon. We can try and find Pheasantipity EX, perhaps. Try and weave that in. There's only one Monkey Dory currently on the board. If you take out the Drifloon, maybe Blood Moon Ursaluna EX being a chunky enough Pokemon could help out at this point. These are the things we have to consider. If Fabrizio only takes a single prize, Ricardo won't have access to any gusting effects either. He only plays Counter Catcher in his deck list. It would force the Screen Tail that's only just been taken from prize cards alongside another Bravery Charm. And we know that one's already been spent at least.
And then we also have to think about the amount of energy that has to be used on that Screen Tail, exactly. Whenever we saw Gardevoird in the past, that has also been playing some Turo in, for example, Brentana's Nest list. In the new Henry Child list, there's no Professor Turo scenario, meaning that you cannot pick up the Drifloon and reuse that energy. You have to retreat it off or get it knocked out. But if Fabrizio essentially doesn't touch it, these energies are going to stick in play, and Ricardo's going to have an easy time taking 2 prizes, unless Fabrizio just tosses up a Noctowl into the face of Ricardo and says, deal with this.
It's Pikachu EX coming to the front. So not the Blood Moon Ursaluna angle. There's another Terrestrial Pokemon. The Resolute Heart, quite easy to get around for the Gardevoird with Monkey Dory currently established. But maybe Fabrizio has more plans of set-up KOs here.
Yet I'm not quite sure about the Pikachu here. With the Lightning Energy being priced, there has to be a knockout taken on Drifloon, and Fabrizio has to be like, I have to take this 33% chance that I get the Lightning Energy off the prizes. Yes, it may lead into a spot where that could become necessary, although I wouldn't feel too good in Fabrizio's shoes if that's what I have to bank on.
We have the one draw from Teal Dance first. Let's see if that changes our fortunes. It's not a Noctowl, it's not a useful piece. Nest Ball is a flat card, it's not usable. It's a concession there from Fabrizio. Game 1 goes to Ricardo. The combination was just too much to acquire, and without access to Jewel Seeker, Fabrizio's going to be picking this one up. Ricardo with a really impressive display with his Gardevoird deck.
And we're about to see that. Even though the Rapska hitting play, getting knocked out immediately to make sure that these Wellspring Mask Ogre pump, but just the amount of resources that Fabrizio has to pull out of deck were just too many, and this beautiful turn 1 for Ricardo. Research, getting rid of all these many energies, getting a TM evolution off that research, being able to get the Rapska and the Kirlia into play. With prizing one of the Kirlia, it's beautiful you can get that into play as a caveat on top. And yeah, the Drifloon there getting the knockout, and unfortunately for Fabrizio, falling a bit short in terms of these resources, not being able to compete really in the latter stages of the game. Of course, after missing a Tera Pokemon early, meaning that the Noctowls couldn't quite get the effect until it was a little tad too late.
That's exactly what I was going to mention, Jesper. It doesn't take much for the Tera box to get into play. Typically, one Ball Search card gets you rolling with the Fan Call. Then you have access to not just one Noctowl, but often multiple. And that really starts to cascade as the game continues. And it comes down to hand disruption, trying to get around Mew EX and Pheasantipity EX draws with often Hoot floated around the board. That wasn't the case in this first game. Early game, it was all about Lily's Clefairy EX. Yeah. You had to slowly manually attach to it, get in with it, take the prizes as you could. Yes, you dealt with the Rabska, which was a good piece that allowed you to weave in the Wellspring Ogerpon at the right time, while it was still sort of useful, while it could still take those easy prize cards. but it still led to you having that clunky mid-game where you still just had too many awkward draws and you weren't able to close out in that instance.
Yeah, it's the difference between hitting or not hitting the options that you need. And yeah, going into today's game too, Fabrizio typically still wants to go first with this Tera box, although Gardevoird is not super great at going first, especially when he's playing Team Evo.
That's true.
Best going first deck, although it depends on the amount of buddy puffins and stuff that Ricardo can hit. It does look like Ricardo's going to start off with a mulligan here for the game too.
Both players with mulligans to start things off, so a little bit more shuffling going on. I like what you're thinking about, Jesper. When your deck is stronger, going first, but then you also have to think about your opponent, especially when it's built in this new style that Fabrizio's probably only had a handful of games with, because it's only just come out in the previous week, right? Henry's only just brought this to the forefront, and it's Ricardo who's picking it up himself and finding his way into a final. You've got to be thinking, is it worth me trying to just employ my strategy to my best ability, or trying to slow down my opponent when they're typically the more difficult deck to set up?
I would argue it's a difficult decision whenever this deck was, if this is truly was new. We have seen Gardevoird with Team Evolution in the past before Budgie was released, and typically you want to bully Gardevoird until you go first. With Fabrizio's deck being good at going first, but it's still even better going second. You have more outs. You have ways of playing Crispin. You can even potentially go for a turn one torrential pump.
All right, now you're dreaming.
Yeah, it is a dream, kind of. But still, you're way better off when you're going second, since you can get these supporter options to thin out your deck a bit more and get into these ball search cards you need for the fan rotom. It's a good question, because I thought that Fabrizio pointed towards himself. I did see Ricardo point towards Fabrizio, so I'm pretty sure that Fabrizio still chooses to go first.
We'll decipher the sign language momentarily, but we're looking at an awkward hand for Fabrizio. Let's see some prize cards coming in. The Tech Jamming Tower already in the prize cards. The Latias EX, which is a one-of within his deck. Anytime a Noctowl piece finds its way to the prizes, that's awkward. However, we are seeing a number of supporter cards and Psychic Energy in the prizes for Ricardo, so both players are going to have to struggle through that, as it's a double new EX start in our game number 2 here in top 4, and I think relief, because Fabrizio has found an Ultra Ball.
And yeah, the answer to the question is 302 number of Pokemon we have in the active here, with the 151 in the active, of course, with the Ultra Ball coming through for Fabrizio, being able to get the Fan Rotom if needed, although yeah, there's a Tera Pokemon in hand, so we can calm down finally.
This hand was awful before the top deck of Ultra Ball. My goodness, Fabrizio got to be having a sigh of relief. If there's any time to do it, it's in top 4 when you're a game down. Top deck
and you have to keep yourself alive in this tournament. If you're not hitting the Ultra Ball, it could be spelling doom, not getting this Fan Rotom, since Fan Rotom is only useful in turn 1 for that fan call ability. Of course, Assault Landing can be used throughout the game, although it's not what you want to be using as an attacker.
Fan Call is exactly what keeps this deck afloat and what makes it so low maintenance, and that's instantly searched and the ability used. You're able to search your deck on the first turn only, and once during your turn, for 3 colorless Pokemon with 100 hit points or less. You reveal them and put them into your hand as well, which means not only can you grab Hoot Hoot and immediately bench them, you can also grab Noctowl to your hand to ensure that you have a strong turn 2, provided, of course, you have a Terrestrial EX Pokemon in play. Fabrizio already has a Terrestrial EX Pokemon in hand, so now that he knows he's gone through the first checkpoint of finding lots of these colorless Pokemon, the Jewel Seeker will be online for the next turn. He knows that he can really start thinking ahead and working on some powerful turns.
He's in such a funny position here. Typically with Fan Call, you're taking double Hoot Hoot and you take a Noctowl. Already has a Noctowl in hand. And something that these Noctowl decks does very often is make sure they only have 1 Noctowl in hand. Since if you're grabbing 2 Noctowls and have 2 Noctowls in hand and you get Iono'd, then both of those Noctowls are going to get washed to the bottom of the deck. And often these times Noctowl decks are not playing very many draw supporters, which means that you're reliant then on Ultra Ball or the last remaining Noctowl that you have in deck to make sure you actually get to use that ability. So it goes for triple Hoot Hoot instead, which I really do like here from Fabrizio, recognizing that we don't want to actually just be losing to Iona flat out.
So with a full bench now, we pass the action over to Ricardo. I believe already has the Ralts in hand. Earthen Vessel can already throw away a number of these energy, and there's Professor's Research in this hand as well. This is a phenomenal opener for Ricardo. Got to be feeling good. And your game one went so smoothly, and now you're once again into position, a 7-card dig, working towards more basic Pokemon, and that TM evolution would be his ideal turn one, just as he did in game number one.
And it's lovely to see you're getting to discard just free energies, although you have to discard a Curly and a Gardevoird, but it's worth it when you get to discard these free energies and potentially also get to pull off another team evolution, potentially getting another Relor since you're discarding Curlia. Haven't priced any of the Relor Rapscut pieces, nor have you priced any Curlia, which means that when you discarding this Curlia, yes, you're still going to have one Curlia available to you. Yes, you're still going to have the Relor Rapscut combo available to you, unless you draw them from the research.
And that means already Ricardo's got to be happy with this turn one, and it's just what we see on the remaining side of this 7 cards. If we can once again just find the TM evolution naturally without having to search it. You have 4 outs to hit your A-spec plus the 3 physical copies, so it's not unlikely to see from 7 cards. We're seeing a quick, diligent deck search, as once again we've seen in that first game, trying to work towards your Gardevoird EX unlocks all sorts of possibilities, a lot of aggressive, basic attacking single prize Pokemon, and it unlocks the Adrenabrain from Monkey Dory. The Earthen Vessel is a huge card within the deck to thin out these energy cards, so that not only do you get your stage 2 online, but immediately you can start pouncing with your Psychic Embrace ability.
You're exactly right about that, Joe, and still looking diligently throughout the deck. One thing that we do see with these players typically in Top Cut, you have 75 minutes instead of the normal 50. So you can take a little bit more time in terms of making sure that you have everything allowed in the deck. Here, Ricardo's going to spot, I don't have quite all the energies that I want. I don't have the Clefairy, which is also a semi-good attacker in this matchup, since that Fabrizio can go up to 8 bench, so you can actually start to punish Fabrizio when he does that. Getting the Darkness Energy attached onto Mew, very interesting here, since you can actually get to, well, you don't get to get rid of the Darkness Energy as you really wish to sometimes, but you get to leave more Psychic Energies in a discard pile, doing this, then attaching to the Mew with a Psychic Energy and using Team Evolution. So I don't hate it here, since you also are playing triple Darkness Energy and you haven't priced any of them. Making sure that you get at least 3 out of 5 available Psychic Energies to you out of the discard pile this quickly.
Yeah, you do have license to make this play, but it would be leaving a vulnerable multi-prize Pokemon in the active position. I possibly wouldn't have mind seeing the attachment onto Ralts, knowing that if you find Buddy Buddy Poffin or the like, you could still get multiple basics out, but I don't think we're finding that. It's only 1 copy of the Buddy Buddy Poffin in fairness.
You're exactly right. Something like the secret box here could have been fantastic to hit here. Both getting...
I mean, it always is, every turn.
Yes, every single turn secret box is good, unless you're getting Budgied, but we don't have to worry about that no more. But yeah, no TM evolution is the biggest piece we're missing here from this port.
I believe that's the Relor in hand, and we can Ultra Ball, so we can get multiple Ralts and at least put the Relor down and threaten it.
But it's still quite awkward here. Fabrizio with triple Hoothoot in play can potentially get into a situation where with Teal Mask Ogerpon, get an energy into play, energy switch it over to the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, get an attachment down to the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, put a Sparkling Crystal to it, Boss's orders of Ralts, and take out both of these Ralts, and essentially putting Ricardo at such a back foot and leading Fabrizio to just such an early and insurmountable lead.
And typically I'd call you a madman for such a specific line of play, but with Noctowl, that's all possible.
There was free Hoothoot
I know. Typically I'd say that's an outlandish dream. But when there's this many Noctowl available, Fabrizio has it right in his range. Will we see 1 card drawn with restarts here? Don't think it changes too much when you have a couple supporters already in the hand, but let's see the +1 card here.
At least try to protect the Mew from getting that knockout early, getting so far behind in the prize trade, and if Fabrizio just pushes into it, it would mean that this Mew essentially could become a damage bank, so to speak, being used of that Monkey Dory and also being a free retreat at the same time, slowly throughout the game, unless Fabrizio then decides to boss it, counter catcher it, or torrential pump it later. It's going to be just stick there and just going to keep floating damage into play depending on how many damage counters you put on it. Now here we do already see the Area 0, already see the energy switch, so I know I called cards, Joe, but it's actually not much I'm asking for at this stage.
It's not too much. Like you said, the stadium could unlock this a little bit more. If Jewel Seeker grabs Ultra Ball as one of these options, and Nest Ball, you could pre-grab the Teal Mask Ogerpon. Then you could restart back up after playing the cards out, Ultra Balling down, but you do lose an energy switch in that combo.
What if he grabbed Nest Ball for Teal Mask Ogerpon? You can grab the Sparkling Crystal. You can nest ball for, or you can grab even Earthen Vessel here, because then you can get the teal mess down, use the ability, use the energy switch straight away. You can actually draw more with restart that way, and if you just hit an Ultra Ball that way or a Noctowl that way, you could actually end up guaranteeing. Since with the Earthen Vessel you get water, you can get grass. It actually doesn't matter which energy you get if you're aiming for the Sparkling Crystal in this case.
In this instance, it's Crispin Crystal as our 2 cards.
That's a bit more safe, honestly.
But it doesn't mean you're taking the 2-prize KO.
Doesn't mean you're taking double rolls. It may just be Crispin to try and attempt to just take out the Rellor, meaning that we can use Torrential Pump for the remainder of the game.
Yeah, and I suppose damaging the Mew EX, it's not the worst thing. There's only going to be like a maximum of 1 Monkey Dory coming down on a future turn. Maybe you can finish it off with Torrential Pumps later, but it feels like...
need to pull that Mew to the bench and pull down Jamming Tower, which is prize, so it's going to be pretty difficult to actually take out this Mew. You're doing 100 damage to it, and then with Monkey Dory, that's not too great, because it goes down to 70. That's, not too great doing that.
I'm finding it hard to get on board with this line, honestly, because you've left yourself with not much draw in hand. You're holding Energy Switch, but no energy on your board. You're holding Area 0, but no Ball Search. You've got no guaranteed Noctowls for next turn, and you've only taken a single prize. I think Fabrizio going for the early Wellspring, worrying about the Rabska is reasonable, but this still wasn't the best turn we could possibly sculpt here. Ricardo's done enough to make it awkward.
The question is, you could have gone for the play taking out both rolls. And you could have gone so far ahead that you wouldn't even need to care about whatever Rabska could have done, because you're putting Ricardo then behind by 2 free turns. Whereas now, you can get Iono, which is great for you, but you still left such an opening behind. You can't really clean up this Mew pretty easily without needing another attacker that isn't the Ogerpon, so I'm not quite sure if I'm the biggest fan of this.
Still, though, it's an Iono when we need to find ourselves rare candy if we want to get to the races with Gardevoird EX here. No access by the looks of things. TM Evolution does come to the hand, but it's not even alongside energy.
Could be grabbing something like Fecundipity, but putting Fecundipity on board is another one of these 2-prize liabilities, and we don't want to be using the Graveyard Charms on these 2-prize guys, since if you're doing that, you're not going to be able to take 1-hit knockouts with Drifloon, since you're only playing double Graveyard Charm.
It doesn't look like an easy turn whatsoever. Maybe we just have to see these additional cards here, Jesper. We at least want to find access to a Curly.
Tries to attach an S-ball, pretty smart.
I feel like it has to be Flip the Script. This hand is not getting us far.
No, there's not even energy. You can't even use Team Evolution here, so you have to Flip the Script to get an energy at the very least.
Yeah, we need to find an energy card or a Night Stretcher. Here we go then. Nest Ball surely has to find Fecundipity EX here.
And yet you only have 4 energy cards left since you're prized to double Psychic, so you need to go into Fecundipity, flip the script to even have the shot of using that TM Evolution or just drawing straight into Curlius. Or Secret Box, nevertheless. It's always a great card to hit, but here, you just have to Fecundipity, leaving your board a bit vulnerable and kind of banking on this Iono, not giving Fabrizio a super good hand, but I'm pretty sure that that Iono can only give Fabrizio a better hand than what they had before.
It's a big 3 cards no matter what. In our top 4 here, Fabrizio did the best he could with 1 Jewel Seeker, only took a single prize. If Ricardo had had the best turn possible, he would have been in a fantastic spot. Hasn't had the turn he was looking for yet. So here comes the 3 cards from Flip the Script to see if that changes his fortunes. Drifloon plus...
We can get to restart for 1 card first by doing this.
Yep. Drifloon, TM Evolution already. Artisan played out. So 2 cards from UEX before the Flip the Script.
No energy. Just Monkey Dory and Ralts, so we still get to Flip the Script for free. We need to see Curlia, Candy Guardy, or Energy. What is it? No Candy. Vessel, that does it.
Vessel is huge. Other than Vessel finally granting us access to some energy cards. And that means we can at the very least find a couple Curlia now. And that's... We're leaking prize cards, but at least Ricardo's getting to where he needs to be.
Yes, but this opens up after the Iono. We can still get to see the double clean out next turn off to Curlius. Curlia only has 90 HP. Torrential Pump does 100 to the active, 120 to the bench, which means that if you can get into 1 Noctowl and have hit something good off the Iono, it's purely possible that it can actually happen here. Still needs to Area 0, still needs a Teal Mask Ogerpon, but with 2 Hoot Hoots in play, if you hit double Noctowl, not asking for much here, Joe.
We're hoping for the best then from Ricardo. The energy finally comes to the hand. We will be going into those double Curlia. And like you said, Jesper, we haven't yet scouted Fabrizio's hand. The double Curlia could all be crashing down next turn with enough Jewel Seekers.
And I have to be really honest here, of course. we're gonna get double curly into play, which is nice and all for Ricardo. It's
good for him.
Yeah, but it's good for him. It's a bit late. the issue that comes up here, one curly was discarded,
right,
with the research, right? So even if there's just a Crispin and then a torrential pump knocking out the Curlia, it means that Ricardo needs to hit a Gardevoird for that, and there's an Ultra Ball.
There's Teal Mask Ogre Bomb, there's Grass Energy, there's Ultra Ball and Noctowl in this hand.
We might just see it now.
You have to think that if Fabrizio wants this line of play, he can make it happen. Jewel Seeker #1 coming in. Area 0 is required. Boss's Orders is required. We see his hand going through those motions of what he needs to piece together.
Vessel, energy switch, attachment. Get in there. And the Boss's Orders to be there. This could be one of the biggest turns we've seen the entire tournament. And with Noctowl, everything is just a possibility. It's where you can really see the massive amounts of skills in these players being in top 4. There's a reason why they're here. They're here because they're doing this so well and being able to pull off these combos seamlessly easy. But yeah, really need to make sure that they're grabbing the correct cards of these Noctowls. And you may be sitting at home thinking, well, this is easy. But now you're sitting with all the lights on you in top 4, headset on, white noise in. And yeah, do we have...
Fabrizio is debating Crispin and not trying to find the double Noctowl plus the Boss's Orders combination.
It does also leave you a bit in the muds whenever you've done that torrential pump and you use both of the Noctowls.
That's true. It leaves you with a far less draw power on the board. But then, I mean, you know you're getting a free turn if there's no access to Gardevoird EX on the following turn from your opponents.
You're right about that, and you'll be going down to free prizes, which means you likely get to draw another prize at that stage. And if you get to draw another prize at that stage, you're just 2 prizes away with a Mew sitting there pretty tasty, and a Festendipity that's also pretty good to fry up. So honestly, I would be thinking here that if you can get to pull it off, it would be really great, although at least you're getting 2 prizes by doing this.
Yeah.
So I'm not hating it at all.
This is still a massive play.
Oh yeah.
No doubt about it. Fabrizio will be going 3 prize cards up. There's the manual attachment in addition to the Crispin Energy Acceleration. And it does keep a Hoot Hoot available. I still like putting down the Teal Mask Ogre EX as well. It means that if the Area 0 is bumped, you can get rid of one of your Noctowl freely.
Then you can get that, you then use the Noctowl as Night Stretcher fodder in case of Leono. Having more outs of getting into a Noctowl, and also pretty much for free in that case, since you don't want to be discarding more cards with Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball is a necessary evil when you're playing these sorts of singleton decks. It feels like whenever you're playing these Tera boxes, and you want to make sure that you're not giving yourself the most amount of difficult decisions, and you're making your decisions way easier whenever you have anything open to you with the Night Stretcher. Do you see the draw from the Teal Mask Ogre pawn?
It's like an easy Ultra Ball away now. There's Ditto and the other Wellspring EX. I feel like that's easy enough to get rid of. If you want to see any additional cards from restarts here, it wouldn't be a bad thing to put even more Hoot Hoots onto this board. Or if you wanted to put something like Festendipity EX proactively onto the board, that could be okay. There is one of those Hoot Hoot in the prize cards actually, so that's not available right now.
Although drawing the 2 prizes, it's either Hoot Hoot or Noctowl's going to go into the hand. Both of them are going to be fantastic draws to have in that case. But yeah, Ultra Ball, we're going to see that it is likely going to be for a Pokemon we get to play instantly, like the Festendipity, for example, making sure that we can get to draw extra cards in terms of a knockout and get to restart for 2 additional cards. Name of the game here, have a full hand as possible whenever you can, and just make sure that whatever your opponent tries to throw in your face, that you can respond to it.
Eyeing up the Terrapagos EX as an interesting choice. Another terrestrial Pokemon. It's one of the cheaper attackers in the deck. Quite an efficient option. So you're not linked towards the Crispin so heavily each turn. Could open up Boss's Orders lines on the already damaged Mew EX at some stage.
Yeah, and the Festendipity too, since you would only need 7 benched Pokemon to deal with that Festendipity. And it leaves you with very good options to be taking those prizes. Looking like the prize map here is going to be Torrential Pump, knock out the Drifloon, knock out Curlia. See what happens from Ricardo next turn. Is there going to be a combination of Arcane to Gardevoird? If there's not, this looks pretty dark, honestly. And if there is, it's still going to be difficult, but then at least Ricardo has a way to pull themselves back into the game, where Fabrizio then has to look at a route where can we go around to take out one either Festendipity or Mew, and then potentially something like the Monkey Dory.
Looks like Fabrizio's happy to hold the 2 cards drawn from restart, so we will be using our torrential pump from Wellspring Mask Ogerpon EX, taking out the stage 1 in addition to the Drifloon. Fabrizio goes 3 prize cards ahead, as he did in that game number 1, but in this instance his board is far more resolute.
Exactly, and this is the perfect board we see from these Tera boxes. Getting to be able to tear up, to use the torrential pump several times, and typically when you've used torrential pump twice, you've taken 4 prizes. Although when you take out the Rellor, pretty nice because it enables you to use more of them. And when you get to take out the Curly that your opponent's been working so hard to get, it's going to be there. But do we see the combination for Candy Gardevoird? Do you see the Candy, but do we see a way of actually getting the Gardevoird?
I'm not seeing it, Jesper. Maybe flip the script to find the combination. Here we go. It has to happen
here, man. It has to happen here. You see 1, 2 free cards off the flip the script. These are important. Nest Ball, Rapscott, Research. No!
Tough break. Rare Candy. It's a one-of in the deck list.
And it's just the unfortunate piece. If you're using Research, you don't get to use the Candy. If you get your Iono, that Candy gets washed to the bottom. You don't have any more additional draw cards since Refinement was rotated. So it doesn't look like there's going to be coming any Gardevoird into play this turn, meaning that the ball is solidly in Fabrizio's court, and Ricardo has to bench another Rolls, being really afraid of Fabrizio taking out the only Rolls in play with another Torrential Pump.
You have to respect it. Looks like Ricardo, the only way he could still get the Rare Candy Gardevoird is to hit the secret box, in addition to a Gardevoird or Ultra Ball. We're going to Nest Ball now to have a look in the deck here. It may still end up being a Monkey Dory coming into play this turn. I'm not seeing many other great Pokemon to pull out from this position. Yeah, this can be shuffled up. We'll be going Monkey Dory, also just having a look at what's remaining in deck to see if it's still possible for him here, Jesper.
Yeah, this does look really difficult, Joe, here, and it's unfortunate at these stages. Although he's still up 1-0, it's still quite possible he can just swing this into game 3. We have to remember there's plenty of time to make sure game 3 happens, and these players have been on great pace to make sure this happens. We don't have to worry about time at the very least in this stage, but we do have to worry about what's going to happen right here, right now. If this Iono does not hit into a combination that gives us Gardevoird EX on Ricardo's side of the board, I would be reckoning that this game is much closer to over than it was just now.
The big 6 cards then. We're looking for our ace spec in addition to Gardevoird or Ultra Ball to make this come together. We need to find the Rare Candy that we've just shuffled to the bottom. 6 cards.
I don't see the secret box there, Joe.
That's a real problem. Now at this stage, you're hoping that you've forced Fabrizio into a slow hand and he can't reload another Torrential Pump. You've really got to be dodging Ultra Ball and Noctowl at this stage. You have to hope that the 3 cards stick.
Surely doesn't look like it here, and there's not even cards to be expended to be using the restart to potentially draw some extra cards. So you could go for a nice stretcher for Curlia to get that into play, although that would just be needing 1 Crispin to be just to lead it essentially here.
It's time for a panic counter catch, I think. Yeah, the 1 retreat cost on Noctowl. Well, there's no Latias EX currently in play, so there is no Skyliner. In fact, it's in the prize cards for Fabrizio.
You're exactly right, and with only 1 Latias played in these decks typically, is this the breathing room that Ricardo can use to get this Curly into play and then gives himself a chance to go ahead and get a Gardevoird in play? Because, yeah, Gardevoird doesn't work without Gardevoird. It's in its name here, Joe. And, yeah, really, it's... What do you leave in the active spot here? Does it even matter what you leave in the active spot, or do you just accept that if Fabrizio actually gets the attack, we're in the muds?
I feel like you have to promote the Rolts, but that really doesn't feel good.
No, because
nothing feels good from here.
At least there is no switch inside of Fabrizio's deck, so there's no like switch Crispin combination. It has to be rescue board attached plus energy switch and Crispin sort of thing, which is pretty difficult to hit. So here, the Super Rod getting a Gardevoird, need that for next turn, a Curly, need that for future, and a Drifloon getting back into the deck. One of your main attackers to try and pull back a few of the pieces here. The unfortunate part of it for Ricardo is that there's still Mew in play to grab these cards, that if you can play any of the cards you got off Iono, you get to be using Restart for a few cards, getting through the deck, because the decks are just getting thinner and thinner the more we get into the game, and the more likely it is for Fabrizio also to be hitting options that they would need to further strengthen themselves.
Not sure if there's any other live action here. We can Adrenabrain, some damage off this Mew EX. Setting up some math across the board. It's still foggy for Ricardo. He still has 6 prize cards to take. So he's going to set up damage on Terrapagos EX right now.
What could have been really, really good here for Ricardo is that if they can get a second Monkidori into play next turn, being able to take this Hoot out during 2 turns, but we really, the question is, what does Fabrizio sit with here? There's an energy in hand, so we get to use the Teal Mask. I think I saw Professor something in their hand. It's either a Turo or a Research.
Energy, Boss's Orders, Blood Moon, Ursaluna EX, and another card that we can't quite see. Ricardo might have just found the wiggle room here.
It says Bria, which is Briar in Italian, so it doesn't quite look like it yet.
Wow.
So we're looking at
any
Ricardo
cards from,
may have saved themselves the turn here.
To draw any cards from Restart, you would have to spend a Boss's Orders, and that doesn't feel good when there's no guarantees of you doing anything.
For turn, use...
Yeah, you'd have to attach to Terrapagos EX. Yeah, bench Blood Moon EX. That would be your final bench slot.
Then you draw one, which has to be either Energy Switch or Crispin, Noctowl.
Yeah. If you just bench Blood Moon Ursaluna, you open up Professor Turo's Scenario as a supporter option. Then you're still not launching much of an attack with the energy committed now.
Because we have to see an epic top deck of the Restart here. Really, really threatening benching the bottom. It is such a huge guy putting down here in the bench. But yeah, are we going to be playing the Boss's Orders? Of course, cannot play the Briar since that Ricardo's not on 2 Briars. You can't just burn the Briar. Can go for the Boss's Orders, and if the Boss's Orders does hit Energy Switch and you can pull up something like the Serendipity, you're also forcing then Ricardo to pull an option out of the deck to retreat it like an Energy. So we then force Ricardo to have stuff. But we reckon that if you're sitting in Fabrizio's shoes, that there should be an energy in Ricardo's hand regardless. But if you go Boss for the Fest exactly, and you actually hit either Noctowl or Energy Switch, it's paid off in spades.
2 big cards from Restart then. Fabrizio.
Oh, show it to us.
The Noctowl. Here it is, Jewel Seeker coming in. A huge hit from Fabrizio here. He is not slowing down.
Mate. We can get the Energy Switch here. Make sure we have the knockout on Serendipity. Yes, it opens up for the Iono 2-1 from Ricardo, but now you're still also having an Ogerpon with 2 energies down in the field. And whatever Ricardo attacks with, he has to be afraid that could be taken out unless it's Gardevoird attacking. And yet there's still going to be small squishy Pokemon on the bench. And then next turn, it could just be the Torrential Pump from Resping Ogerpon, I'm sorry, to be able to take out something like the Rolls or the Monkidori on bench.
This is becoming a terrifying board state. Fabrizio's draw 2 found exactly what he needed. From draw 2 to pick the best 2 from your deck. That is the power of the Jewel Seeker from Noctowl. Fabrizio kept his line open, and now we'll be able to launch a fantastic unified beatdown, finishing off this Serendipity EX thanks to his full bench with Area 0.
And yes, Joe, terrifying indeed here. Grabbing the Vessel to be able to get some energies into play potentially next turn. Being able to use the second energy switch, potentially that can come down next turn as well, to make sure that they don't just need Crispin, because I think the last card in hand is actually Crispin. So I have all the options that they want to have for next turn. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is a Crispin in the end of the hand, yeah. So if there's no disruption from Ricardo, we can't just see Crispin next turn for Torrential Pump, because there's only 2 Bravery Charms, and you can't, unless... No, you can't even get that. You have to Arcane Gardevoird, Bravery Charm to Monkidori if you want to protect against it. But by benching the Screamtail, it basically telegraphs that Crispin equals game on the Torrential Pump. And it looks like we're going to see research. So I actually see here, Joe, if Fabrizio sees the line to be able to Crispin down to the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, have 2 different energy types in deck, we are going to be seeing game here, Joe.
Not seeing much else from Ricardo, who has to go through the motions. He knows that his back is against the wall. He has to make Fabrizio have it. From his perspective, it's a low hand size. There's certainly a world in which he gets away with it, gets out of jail, even though there's only a couple cards required to close the game here. So Ricardo's still got to do his best to put himself in the position to claw this massive comeback. We know that it's probably not possible, but Ricardo might see something we don't just yet.
You always have to maximize every single opportunity you have. We haven't quite kept tabs on how the energies are from Fabrizio. There could be an option that there's not enough energies to power up left in deck. And if you're sitting here as Ricardo, you have to do everything that you can potentially to grab this. We have seen crazier things happening both on stream and in some of our games or ourselves. But yeah, Secret Box is going to come out. Could be the counter catcher. Guess they can play more than one supporter. We have to remember that. Gotta have to grab Iono, counter catcher, Team Evo.
Yeah, it's just no stadium remaining. So
Braver
it's
Charm
just
instead of the
Bravery
Evo.
Charm. Feels like some sort of panic counter-catcher plus screen tail combination is the best thing you can do.
Yeah, I mean, you could counter-catcher the Boltman or Saluna.
Yeah.
Even though Fabrizio did take the lattice of the prizes, there's a full bench over there, which means that you can start setting up and then using Monkidori to clean up afterwards. You do have to remember that with Scream Tail, you're not allowed to hit the Tera Pokemon on bench, which means that you cannot hit the Wellspring Mask, you cannot hit the Teal Mask, neither can you hit the Terapagos. But you have to play into the out of trying to then spread all the damage that you can.
You could damage the active, you could damage the Mew EX, and then look for multiple Monkidori to string together. I think that's about all we can see here, Jesper, right now, to stay in this game.
Because we do get to see the Gardevoird, which is the piece that we need to see first before we can actually start attacking with the Scream Tail and try to get these energies in play. We've used the Mew as a damage bank again, as we talked about early in the game. You see 70 damage that are already onto the Mew to try and see if we can make some spots where we can set up some damage counters and potentially swing this awful position into a strength.
You could even use Mew EX to copy Blood Moon on the Blood Moon. That would deal 240 damage, and then you can move the energy elsewhere later on. You're going to be looking at the Crown Opal attack as another potential copy.
Yeah, but that's not super nice when we're looking at Unified Beatdown being able to deal 220 and then you're putting 40 damage on. So no, not quite the best move because that's initially conceding if you're looking at it that way. But we could go for the Blood Moon spot. Gonna remove 30 damage with the Monkidori. And yeah, I actually do really like the counter catcher onto a Blood Moon. Do 240, which forces the Turo scenario. And if the Turo is being played,
it is the Crown Opal attack. With 4 prize cards still remaining, Fabrizio can't simply use Blood Moon back without a number of energy acceleration options.
Crispin energy switch?
Yeah. Well, also, we know now that with Crispin in hand, the Wellspring Ogerpom is open. It's just
so
one
if there's
prize card
two
required.
different energy cards in deck, we're going to be able to see the Crispin. And Fabrizio's just thinking about it. Going to look for the discard pile. How many energies have I gone through? Going to be able to play the Earthen Vessel on top of that to just make absolutely sure that we do have enough energy. I do see 2 different types of energy in deck, so if Fabrizio sees it, we're going to be able to go on. We can also just play Crispin, move up to Blood Moon. There's so many options. Don't even need to Torrential Pump here. We just need to be attaching energy. So going through the motion, it seems, getting double grass energy, going to be able to attach to, you can also attach to the Ogerpom.
Myriad Leaf Shower even.
And we do see Boss's orders, either Ralts, Scream Tail, Monkidori for the game here, and Fabrizio tying up the set 1-1 with just about 16.5 minutes left for game 3. Plenty of time to get in, and these trainers have been fighting all weekend. And yeah, Fabrizio telling up the game, and it ended up being a bit tired at the end than we've been seeing throughout the game, getting that Gardevoird to play. We did see some line that could happen, but yeah, at the end there, Bloodmoon's going to be able to take it, as we said so many times throughout the weekend.
It all started with that top deck of Ultra Ball to keep Fabrizio's dreams alive, because Fancool got him into so many Hoot Hoot, and immediately off the first Jewel Seeker, we were able to start launching these torrential pumps, damaging Mew EX, taking out the Relor in the process. And Ricardo seemed like he was in decent position there, but just could not find his Gardevoird, so ended up really on the back foot. A second torrential pump coming in, dealing with the stage 1 Curlier, whilst also taking out the Drifloon. The prize race just started to become less and less possible, as this 2-draw from restarts found the Jewel Seeker Noctowl and opened up another 2-prize knockout.
Yeah, and it was a game of the pump and then the game of the Jewel Seeker. And yeah, there were jewelry being found out the Jewel Seeker for this game. Coming in clutch whenever Fabrizio needed that last Noctowl to be pulled off the top of the deck, remembering that there was a Noctowl prize at that very stage as well. So great find there, and leads us into a game 3. And as we all wish, we want close games. We want game 3s. We want some exciting actions to bring to you guys back home. And yeah, what do you think of this this matchup when we've been seeing it here twice?
Well, it's a real back and forth. We've seen how the Rabska can affect things. We've seen how it's also affected Fabrizio's thinking as well. The priority of that Pokemon then sort of changes the things that Ricardo has to be aware of, and like how he builds his board. Let's see some prize cards coming down. That's only one copy of the 2 Wellspring Mask Ogerpon EX. Also the Pikachu EX in there as well. But a couple Ultra Ball in the prizes for Ricardo, but we see the fist bump. It looks like Fabrizio will be kicking things off with that Mew EX once again in the active position, and immediately with a Nest Ball, we know that he's going to have at least a pretty decent turn 1.
Yeah, as long as you're starting Nest Ball with this Tera box deck, Fabrizio is going to be able to at least get a Fen Rotom, which he does go ahead and get right here. Although the question is just going to be, do we have a Tera Pokemon to follow up in hand? It does look like there are some Ultra Balls there, so we could be able to use that. But yeah,
we can even go
going first.
We can even go for the transformative start Ditto. Thanks to the Mew EX lead, we can naturally pivot into this Pokemon. Its time to shine is only on turn 1, but the transformative start, such a valuable ability that many players who use the Fan Rotom look towards this Pokemon. It's immediately using that ability to swap with a Pokemon in the deck. In this instance, it's going to be a Wellspring Mask Ogerpon EX straight away for Fabrizio. He has no illusions as to what the most important Pokemon is for his early game in this matchup.
Yeah, and Ditto fled there using the Transformative start into the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, the main attacker from the first 2 games here, being able to use that Torrential Pump. And it really puts pressure on, since Ricardo starting the Relor is going to have such a hard time getting that back. And actually, when I'm looking down at Ricardo's list, not going to be able to retreat and use Team Evolution at the same time, meaning that this Relor may just be left out there.
Yeah, maybe one of those awkward leads where you just have to leave it in the active and hope that just by evolving into 2 Curlier, that's your best safeguard. We'll see how that develops as it goes over to his turn, but we see the attachment onto the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon as well.
We even have an Ultra Ball to boot next turn, being able to get the Noctowls into play and being able to possibly go for my dream play of taking out 2 Curlias.
Oh boy, Jesper, we need to use Ino here. We need to find Ball Search or Basics. Right now, it's a lone Relor. It has an Energy and a TM Evolution. It's looking for some basic pals to keep us in the game here.
I'm saying Sliding Intrusion may be good sometimes, but it ain't too good right now, mate, and really need to see some... Oh, wait.
Nest Ball.
Just one Nest Ball. That can get into Curly, but that still means that Torrential Pump...
We can't do that.
You can't just go for Curly yet, because it means that you would lose a knockdown. But what do you get then? Just go ahead and get me you?
There's Serendipity EX, maybe?
That's not too great either.
Listen, it's not great. It's not great, Jesper. I agree with you.
I understand it keeps you alive, but you're still in a situation where that's like... You're delaying your Gardevoird another turn. And again, Ricardo's hitting these awkward hands where you can't get all the pieces you want into play.
Oh man,
is this a get a Ralts, use Team Evo and pray?
You can lose on the spot, yes, but that's way too dangerous.
I understand that.
That's way too dangerous. We have to grab... Oh, Lily's Clefairy EX. I wouldn't mind it if we hadn't already committed an energy attachment, but now that we have, I would much prefer a Serendipity EX in this spot, knowing...
Or even Mew, so you can use the free retreat off it, get it out of
EX is fine as well.
Stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, you haven't even priced that. Yeah. So yeah, the Lily's Clefairy seems a bit...
It's a curious choice
to me, yeah.
Maybe it's that. Maybe you just retreat into it.
Yeah, but then again, you still got Torrential Pump. There's only 20 damage difference in that case.
It's not a great deal either way. It's an awkward Iono.
You might as well just use Slight Intrusion here from the Relor, dealing 30 damage.
You'll love to see it. Hey, every damage counter matters.
I mean, at these slight times, you got to go for some intrusion, right? And that's likely what Ricardo has to see at that. We do... We'll wait and see what happens here. Yeah, the Slight Intrusion is going to happen here. 30 damage to the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, 10 to Relor itself. And we're back over to Fabrizio's turn. Yikes for turn 1 from Ricardo.
This is a huge opening for Fabrizio now. The Iono was not kind to Ricardo. So now, with this Ultra Ball, he will be able to access his Noctowl, and so often we've said that Jewel Seeker unlocks the entire deck. The world is his oyster this turn, as he can sculpt all sorts of supporter card options, as well as weaving in some different item cards. I feel like simply damaging the Lily's Clefairy EX is already great, as you just take a single prize. Knowing that Rabsca is such an annoying Pokemon, just getting that off the board immediately is really handy.
And then the question comes, is Ricardo then going to be able to respawn that Relor next turn? And the likely question is, well, then you also let go of a Team Evolution. If you're putting down a Relor, that's going to get bullied straight away by the Torrential Pump. If Fabrizio is going to be allowed to do that and able to do so, of course they would wish to do so. But yeah, it's going to be super difficult for Ricardo here. Fabrizio's going to go with prize, get massive amounts of damage in play. And this latest Clefairy is going to be taken out on the coming turn unless there's a Monkey Dory is going to be able to change that. But if Monkey Dory is going to be used, there's not going to be an energies being able to be attached to Latest Clefairy, meaning you can't TM Evolution on the same turn to get some Curlius and potentially Rapskin into play. It's all just getting more and more difficult, and that's why I'm trying to lead out the options that are for Ricardo, but they're just getting slimmer and slimmer and a bit worse every single time I name a new one.
Torrential Pump lined up then, as you said, Jesper, and we've opened our boards in order to get even more energy onto this field this turn. With a Teal Dance, we get to see an additional card as well. It's a great deal for you. Terrapagos EX finds its way into the hand. But the turn is already fantastic.
It doesn't require a lot to be fantastic here, May, and you also get to see the Ninth Stretcher being in hand. And I did spy a Grass Energy being in a discard pile for Fabrizio, meaning that you can at least guarantee to draw an extra card next turn. And don't forget, these extra small draws in the last game were what set them apart, with Fabrizio being able to grab an Octal. And if the same could happen next turn, yeah, we may just be seeing a game like this. But Ricardo's going to do everything that they can to fight back.
The good news is there's at least a supporter in hand, and there's Night Stretcher. So we can try and recover Relor. We can possibly even Bravery Charming up. This Lily's Clefairy is valuable now, and just saying that you're not going to have access to TM Evolution, you'll find that Rare Candy again later. We're not even going to recover Relor. We're just seeing another 6 cards here. Fabrizio, 1 prize up, will only draw 5 cards. Ricardo needs another decent 6 here.
I still just don't like it here, Joe. It's
Listen, don't count him out. Gardevoir's always going behind.
I'm not counting out. Gardevoird is always a great deck to go from behind, but there's an Ultra Ball that can get a rolls, but we really do want double rolls here.
Yeah, this was another awkward 6 cards,
Does
no
it have
doubt
to be
about
Ultra
it.
Ball for Festendipity to try and grab a Buddy Puffin?
Are we behind enough to make that hero play? We could be. Honestly, we could be. It's 1 copy of Buddy Puffin in the deck and the secret box. You'd have exactly enough cards with Flip the Script to be able to play the secret box and discard the rest of the hand away. It sounds terrible, but at least you grab a supporter for the following turn anyway, so it's not that all in.
Yes, it's either choosing between
UEX
or Ralts. Choosing Ralts leans. At least Fabrizio needs a couple of cards to be pulling off the Torrential Pump since there's no Sparkling Crystal in play yet.
Yep.
Although that would just be an Ultra Ball for a Crispin, for a Noctowl who gets Crispin and Sparkling Crystal in that case. It's not a lot we're asking for there. But it's just so awkward for Ricardo, because if Ricardo goes ahead and says, yes, I'm going to go Festendipity, draw 3 cards, or get the Ralts, then basically just telling Fabrizio, do you have it?
Ricardo has to dodge at this stage. Ultra Ball for 1 Ralts, and you're crossing your fingers. In top 4, both players a game apiece. Less than 7 minutes remain on the clock. Fabrizio already ahead in the prize race. It's a pass. Is there access to Jewel Seeker, Jesper? Well, we have Teal Dance.
Or is that a Nest Ball?
Nest Ball in hand, so I think it's down to this 1 draw.
As I said last turn, Joe, these small cards that you draw from these pieces, or we can even go for Assault Landing potentially. We do a free retreat with Latias.
Choosing not to take the draw and just putting more damage onto this board. It sets up a Jamming Tower play.
If there's a Boss's Orders in hand,
yeah,
if there's a Boss's Orders, we get the Ralts.
Oh my goodness, still denial of the Gardevoird. Fabrizio will take another prize card. And Ricardo left with just 1 energy on Lily's Clefairy.
And landing this Ralts Assault with the Assault landing here, Joe. And yeah, it works out against Gardevoird. If you're just assaulting all these Ralts, they don't get to get into play and stay alive for as long enough we can. Even gets another Hoot into play. Even if Ricardo wants to do something like attach to Lily's Clefairy and bump one of these Hoots off the board, there's still going to be second one to boot.
Fabrizio then goes down to 4 prize cards remaining. It's another research top deck. Ricardo was already planning on doing that, so he'll see a fresh 7 cards. He's looking for a lot of help here. 1 energy attachment will allow the Lily's Clefairy EX to be at least a dangerous attacking threat. You could find something like Counter Catcher as well. Well, there's the secret box. Festendipity EX in hand as well. We finally found a piece of something, Jesper. We need to work on getting multiple Ralts, but also if we can get aggressive with this Clefairy while we have the chance, get the most out of it and try and level up this prize race, you could still stay in it here.
Yeah, exactly, and we still just need to see 2 Ralts in play here. Has to be 2 Ralts, otherwise we would reckon that there's going to become another Assault Landing, unless that could be blocked by something like the Braver Charm, that then in turn is going to get blocked by the Jamming Tower. So a lot of things that has to align here for Ricardo, but Ricardo still has to just do their best to make sure that that's not going to be a possibility.
I think we have some good fodder for this secret box, so we will be launching our A-Spec granting us access to one supporter card, one item card, one stadium card, and one tool card. It's a key focal point of Gardevoird to help you cherry pick some big combinations. In this instance, getting rid of a Psychic Energy, Ultra Ball, and Curlier. Will this now finally grab us the Buddy Buddy Poffin? I think we already have one of the Artisan in hand. Can we grab some Bravery Charm here as well? Bulk up some more of these Pokemon. Try and safeguard yourself around another Torrential Pump. Has to be in the thinking right now for Ricardo. If you can counter-catch an attack with Lily's Clefairy EX as well, that's still how you have your most aggressive turn. Oh, we're changing up our box here. Getting rid of the Drifloon rather than Ultra Ball. Just having a debate here between our trainers.
Yeah, still so many options that Ricardo has to go through. And regardless of whatever option that they're presented with, it's just not a good option. And everything seems like it's a little tad too late at some stages here. Looking through the deck, getting an Arven versus a Porter slot, still being able to get a tool, a stadium, and an item card to be able to pull themselves back, or attempt to pull themselves back into this. And it feels like, yes,
I like the aggressive line here, yes.
We need to be aggressive with the Lily's Clefairy indeed here, Joe. But I'm just still seeing the question is, where do we start being aggressive at? Do we try to take out something like the Terrapagos? Do we try to take something out like the Teal Mask Ogerpon, deny a bit of draw?
I just think Mew. Mew's the most draw on that board, usually, when you're going to Iona your opponent down lower and lower as the game progresses. And by keeping Artisan and that Ultra Ball now, you're still able to develop double Rolts here. You can Ultra Ball away the Arven and the Artisan that you've just found quite easily. Oh, it's actually going to be the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon EX. It's got nothing on it, so it's not necessarily the biggest threat, but you're just aware of its potential. We are going to Ultra Ball, getting rid of the Arven and TM Evolution just found from the secret box. Rolts number 1 comes into the mix. And Rolts number 2 can be found.
So we can get the Artisan for the second Rolts exactly here.
It's everything you hoped for. From that professor's research, we finally had a decent outcome. Couple whiffs from Ionos back-to-back, but now the research comes in clutch. We will bump the stadium, forcing some discards from Fabrizio, getting rid of a couple of those Noctowl and the Fan Rotom. What else are we getting rid of here?
It's really difficult. It's also really smart from Ricardo pulling up this Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, because I would definitely just discard the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon in this case here. Perhaps
right, that's true.
Yeah, forcing to discard either Terrapagos or Latias. I do really like discarding the Terrapagos rather. And you want to keep the Teal Mask Ogerpon in play because that could draw cards. You want to keep Mew in place because that could also draw cards. And you want to keep the Latias in place since that gains you the free retreat that you need to be maneuvering and have mobility on your board. So actually picking up this Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, regardless of if you're being aggressive or not, which Ricardo is in this stage, gets to relieve yourself from one of the main attackers that Fabrizio could use to knock you out, which is 2 energy attachments, which is the Terrapagos. But also you get to remove the Area 0 from play, which could be the enabling effect to actually grab the knockout with Terrapagos after all.
So Ricardo, with his back against the wall, is finally able to develop not 1 but 2 Rolts, whilst also leveling up the prize trade thanks to Counter Catcher and the Lily's Clefairy that he was premeditating from a couple turns ahead. These are the steps that our players are having to go through to stay in this game and keep things close. But Fabrizio does have access to Jewel Seeker once again, so I'm expecting another explosive turn here. What's the best way that he can disrupt Ricardo this turn?
I'm not, well, it takes
Clefairy's an easy KO.
Clefairy's an easy KO, and then you can look at the Festivity for the last remaining KO with something like the Blood Moon. Okay, we started there. I'm really just always looking forward to an option of if you're trying to take out both routes.
Yeah, that's a big combo.
I know it's a big combo, but with 2 Hootuts in play, you could technically still be doing it with the remaining Wellspring Mask Ogerpon you have in deck. You still haven't used the Sparking Crystal yet. And you can still get into a spot where there's an energy on the Teal Mask Ogerpon still. So we're called...
Energy Switch, Sparkling Crystal, Manual Attachments, Boss's Orders, it is possible.
Still just only 4 cards, and you get 4 cards by doing Noctowl, and without the Noctowl we get the Nest Ball that could be potentially the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon. And I would be thinking here, Joe, that if the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon shows its face, that's definitely what Fabrizio wants to be going for, since the Clefairy here is just outside of range from a Torrential Pump.
You can also Torrential Pump alongside your Jamming Tower. That would be a way to take a big 3 prize turn as well.
Oh yeah.
So you don't have to use a gusting effect. In that case, you'd be able to use Crispin in addition to Sparkling Crystal.
So we do see a Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, so we could get into a Jamming Tower situation here. A lot of great options here, since if you go to take the free prizes here, yes, you go down to 1, you'll still have your Mew in play to be able to restart in case Iona comes out, which means it has to be Iona plus KO Mew. If it's Iona plus KO Mew, it almost cannot be by Screamtail, since I could lose to anything from the board, even something like a Sob or a triple strike even from Hoot in that case.
You're getting creative. Sparkling Crystal coming to the hand end with Jewel Seeker. What's the second piece of the puzzle? Area 0.
Okay.
So we're looking towards using Professor's Research this turn, still seeing 7 fresh cards, and hoping from that stage that we can draw into Ultra Balls, Noctowls, or Energy Switches.
We could also Sparkling Crystal the Teal Mask Ogerpon. No, don't forget that, and get the knockout on the Clefairy, and then have to find another way of grabbing 2 prizes. It can always just be be the boss Blood Moon onto Festivity a bit later.
Yep.
Since as long as you're grabbing 2 prizes this turn, you have to feel good about what you're doing here in this position. So I'm actually not really hating this, but the Sparkling Crystal is going to come down
Spread the threat
to it.
Festivity EX can also hit the board. Research for a fresh 7 cards here. We're seeing a lot of cards, Jesper. We could naturally find the combo without the need for Noctowl. There's the Jamming Tower.
But we just played Area 0 this turn, Joe, so we can't play the Jamming Tower down, although there's not an energy to the Monkey Dory yet. So if the Monkey Dory is not being activated, we could see that Clefairy go down to the usage of Jamming Tower.
Now there's the option of Jewel Seeker still remaining. How can we piece this together? I think now it's just a simple KO on the Lily's Clefairy and say that I've got Myriad Leaf Shower online and I've got the Torrential Pump lined up for future turns.
We do have a grass in the discard pile. This could either be something like, you know, Earthen Vessel for double grass, depending on what we have
discard,
left in deck.
Yeah.
So we could potentially go for something like Super Rod, plus Earthen Vessel,
yeah, that's a great combo.
To be able to both draw the card by Teal Mask and Teal Dancing, or you can grab the Vessel. So we do see Vessel. How many grass do we have in deck, Joe?
Not many, but you still have your manual attachment, then you can Teal Dance over. Maybe we're just setting Clefairy up with that 220 and saying that you can catch your opponent off guard with the Jamming Tower. It wasn't seen in either game just yet.
You're absolutely right about that, although we have to recognize that Ricardo, if an attachment is going to come down to Monkey Dory, will start removing damage off the Clefairy, making that a tad more difficult. If we are to go Torrential Pump, this Clefairy would go up to 220 though. Yeah. Which, when relieved of 30 damage, will still be 190. Yeah. And Ricardo's only going to maximum be able to use 1 Monkey Dory, leaving that Clefairy exactly at the amount of HP that's being good here. Although time is called, we're going to have Fabrizio being turn 0, and when we go to time here in Top Cut, we have to find a winner. We do play the typical +3 turns we do. So Fabrizio is going to be turn 0, Ricardo turn 1, Fabrizio turn 2, Ricardo turn 3. If Ricardo has not completed the game when he's turn 3, or the game has not been completed after Ricardo completes their turn 3, the game's going to continue on until there's someone in the lead in the prize card count, which kind of means that Fabrizio does not have to win the game, nor does Ricardo. So it can come into a situation where drawing something like 3 prize cards may be enough.
And talk about pressure between these 2 players in top 4 of a special championships. It's come down to the wire. Game 3 into turns of time. It's been a grueling 75 minutes. Thought-provoking plays from both players at this stage. And you just do not want to trip up. Both players have a chance to be the victor here.
I really like this, Joe. I really like Night Stretching for the Hoot, just in case an Iona comes out. You do have these extra options to pull out and Noctowl, and it's the lifeblood of Fabrizio's deck to get Noctowl. And if there's an Iona being played, a Noctowl can go ahead and get exactly that Jamming Tower, meaning that Fabrizio would then only need a Noctowl next turn, literally, because that could be Crispin plus Jamming Tower, could grab the last remaining prizes if this Wellspring Mask Ogerpon's knocked that out. But we do get to see Torrential Pump not grabbing a knockout on Clefairy, pushing it up to 220 damage, staying alive because of the Bravery Charm. That's really good. And then we get to take out either Screamtail, Monkey Door, or any of the rolls on the bench.
Honestly, you're not that afraid of anything, so Monkey Dory happy enough to get rid of, I think because there's a couple darkness energy in the discard pile as well, this makes Night Stretcher far less live.
Yes.
Because there's only 2 copies in Henry Chow's list of Night Stretcher. They'd have to find multiple of them to be able to make it come together. There is Super Rod though.
There's Super Rod and Night Stretcher in hand, so it could go Super Rod Artisan, Monkey Dory,
Sure.
Night Stretcher for Darkness to get that alive. But still, even if there's a Monkey Dory front to Clefairy, it's still going to go down to a potential Jamming Tower next turn, and we may just see this tournament here being the battle of the tower.
This is so close, yes, but turn 1 for Ricardo then. A heavily damaged Lily's Clefairy EX. This is the first opportunity Ricardo's had in this game 3 to actually find a Gardevoird EX. Here's a draw for turn. Rare Candy off the top. I don't think it's live though.
Neither, Joe, and such scrappy games here for Ricardo's past 2 games. Was thinking that potentially if this game 2 went really bad, which it did, could have a better game 3, but not looking like it. Ricardo fighting with everything that they've got. And it's one thing I do have to say about Fabrizio's play, it's really nice. Really, really great that they're down to 3 prizes instead of 1. Had that Jamming Tower potentially been in play instead of the Area 0, leaving themselves with, even with Fessendipity, Miyu, Latias, being able to, if the stadium is being changed, to just discard the 2 knockdowns.
Yeah.
Really great and foresight in their play, and really making this way harder for Ricardo.
Ricardo's doing his best, looking at what resources remain before deciding, and I believe it's an earthen vessel that we're scouting right now, of what to get rid of. Here we go, getting rid of the Artisan. I imagine there's also going to be some Super Rod or Night Stretcher shenanigans, but taking a look through the deck as well, we need to thin towards making this Iono a little bit more reliable here. We could also do the classic flip the script first, try and find the Gardevoird that way. We failed to do so in game number 2, but I still feel like it was the right avenue in that game 2.
Yeah, because it's just so hard to shuffle the deck and get the Rare Candy afterwards, right?
Yeah.
And you would have to be counting on more things happening. Whereas if you're trying to draw for the Gardevoird in this size of a deck, it's a more fair shout than what you had in game 2.
Let's see then. Any more actions before the flip the script, or is it the big Fezandipity? 3 cards. Will we see Gardevoird EX here?
He's getting a better seat in his chair here.
Gardevoird EX.
On the first card even.
That means we're still gaming. Ricardo has avenues now. That was the minimum he needed this turn to even have a hope to continue on in this game.
The bare necessities here, Joe, to try and stay within the games here. And yeah, it's still going to require a lot. Even if you go Iono, again, it's a free card Iono, plus a Fessendipity, plus a potential restart.
Well, can we even find something like Countercatcher at this stage? Maybe bring up one of these Pokemon, bring up Fezandipity and punch it, knowing that later on you can Adrenabrain to finish it off. Gardevoird, even given 2 turns remaining, can still sculpt its way to 4 prizes over those 2 turns, even if it takes none this turn.
Doesn't look like it's currently, it looks like double on Night Stretcher and a Super Rod for the items that there are in hand. So it has to be an Iono, drawing 4 cards, and if it needs to happen now, Joe, for the Countercatcher, otherwise it may just be a tad too late. Fabrizio only having 1 turn left here in time, and yeah, it's getting tense.
It's far too dangerous at this stage. Ricardo still looking
Vessel,
for pieces.
Arven, Gardevoird, Nestball, no to the Countercatcher.
These are not live.
Which means that whatever Fabrizio draws here, it's going to stay theirs.
I mean, you can still retreat into Gardevoird EX and hit this Wellspring Ogerpon for 190, still using Adrenabrain on your Clefairy EX, and set up another one of these multi-prize EX Pokemon.
Yeah, you can put it on something like the Fessendipity, Latias, or you can even just take out the Mew next turn with the Monkey Dory, as long as you're just not taking a knockout this turn.
Yeah.
And
you set up the damage for Screamtail this way if it's on Mew EX.
Exactly.
So you're actually right in this mix, and you're forcing Fabrizio from this 3 cards. If you don't give Flip the Script to your opponents, it's still needing access to Noctowl or Ultra Ball. Ricardo's still in this.
It's a matter again of these small amount of cards being drawn. Do we get to see that Noctowl happening on the Hoot once again, or do we finally, I'm not going to say finally, it's because it hasn't happened yet, but maybe do we see Fabrizio missing for once, which is what Ricardo really does need here. Gonna see the Monkey Dory activating the Adrenabrain, perhaps holding a bit onto it. Gonna use it now, Adrenabrain from Monkey Dory getting in here. And yeah, where do we see this monkey business going to? You're absolutely right about if you put it onto Mew, you can use Screamtail with 4 energies next turn. Really great and aware of play here, because then you can on the turn afterwards. But we're gonna put it onto...
It's going onto the active. Does that mean we are allowing Flip the Script to stay live here?
We are, but we get to get rid of the sparkling crystal.
Yeah, you are aware that torrential pump, you know, once again, Jesper, we're sat up here thinking jamming tower's a big combo for Fabrizio.
Yeah, but
Ricardo hasn't
maybe
seen
doesn't
it.
even know about it.
Hasn't seen it in the first 2 games whatsoever. So it may simply be out of his field of thinking. Not in his vision right now.
It's not something that we typically see in all these Tera box decks. It's not every single time.
You think about it in Raging Bolt, not in this deck.
Exactly. We do see retreat. And it could be into either something like the Scream Tail. Well, I'm not quite sure. He's just going to...
attacking.
Seems like we're just going to take the knockout onto the Wellspring Mask Ogre Pawn. And now, turn 2 of time here now, Joe.
The final turn for Fabrizio.
Promoting the Miyu, and let's see what they've got here. Do we have anything close to? We still have Flip the Script online since the knockout was taken. If we can thin our hand enough, we can get to use the restart here for Miyu. There's a Crispin.
Couple supporters, Brock scouting.
Double energy. Okay.
Brock scouting gets us towards Blood Moon Ursaluna EX.
Brock scouting could get us something like Noctowl potentially.
Noctowl as well. Is that enough in this instance? Noctowl would grab the jamming tower for the easy 2 prize KO. Ricardo presumably shoves Gardevoird EX, the biggest Pokemon. That's not an easy KO.
Can we do Wellspring again? I think we've exhausted all the energy switches, honestly.
This is so tough. Do we have to rip the Pheasantipity EX first? We are. Flip the script, Jesper. 3 more cards.
Let's see if it's in the script for this time. Do we get to hit it? Noctowl boss would be quite... There's an Ultra Ball.
Crispin Ultra Ball. Surely now Fabrizio is getting
Tower
close.
Boss's orders. Could be hitting it here, but we need a little bit more.
Do we need to take prize cards here to unlock the way to win? The jamming tower's easy. That's the KO on Lily's Clefairy EX, but Ricardo will no doubt bring up his Gardevoird EX, a mammoth 310 hit points. That's still a hurdle for Fabrizio.
And the most sturdy Pokemon that Ricardo can toss up front. No doubt that will be able to happen if this jamming tower just comes into play now. Just 1 card off. Anything just like a Fan Run would have been amazing here, Joe.
Counter Catch is still open for Fabrizio. Could he do it? You could Brock Scouting Blood Moon Ursaluna. You can use your Jewel Seeker for Counter Catcher plus Jamming Tower. Play Counter Catcher, Jamming Tower, then Blood Moon for the game.
Could just happen. Ultra Ball would put contemplating discarding the Brock is... We need to...
As long as it's all in deck here.
Oh, it's a Psychic Energy, so we get to see it here.
Jamming Tower's available. Counter Catcher's available. Game is in the deck.
Game is in deck, yes. We just need
Brock
to
scouting
see
for
if
Blood Moon is game.
You can just get the Blood Moon down with the Brock attached to it. Counter Catcher. Does Fabrizio see it here?
Fabrizio with 3 prize cards remaining.
There's
Ricardo with 2. Jewel Seeker is game here. Can
but we
Fabrizio
can't play the
spot
Jamming
it?
Tower before the Counter Catcher. Remember that. It has to do that before.
There's a lot in play here.
It has to be sequenced perfectly here, Joe.
Here comes the Jewel Seeker. Brock Scouting Unit Energy is Blood Moon for the final attack of the game. We're looking at boss's orders, but Counter Catch is available. I can't believe this in top 4 of the Special Championships. Fabrizio just needs to see it. In turn 2 of time, Fabrizio's final turn here. Thinking about the Jewel Seeker.
There's a Jamming Tower at the very least. That's
we
what
knew
we need
that
to.
was we knew that was essential.
This boss to be a Counter Catcher.
It looks like we're not getting there, Jesper. Debating the boss's orders, if only... Oh my goodness. We were mulling it over for a couple of moments there. Takes
he's
back
not
the boss's orders. Have a look through that deck, please, Fabrizio.
Please take one more time. One more time, mate.
But look at the Counter Card is right there. No, Jesper, please.
Oh, he's teasing us.
My knees are weak.
Fabrizio's definitely teasing us, but it's such an important decision here.
This is an obscure line. This is an obscure line of play, no doubt. You would have to play the Counter Catcher first, Brock Scouting the Blood Moon, attach the energy.
Or Fan Rotom even.
Fan Rotom would also do it.
Doesn't matter.
It's right there, the Counter Catcher's there. We haven't yet shuffled, the decision's not been made. Oh, my
Puts it
goodness.
back on top of the deck again. Oh, looks at Rock Scouting. Looks at the energy in hand.
He must know that he's so close here. He must know that Jewel Seeker can get there. Jamming Tower, yes. The Brock is the right idea, but you already have an item version.
The boss is also kind of the right idea, getting closer, but Iono...
Oh my goodness.
Joe,
so intense.
Joe. But what do you then attack with to make sure that Ricardo just doesn't knock it out with Gardevoird Screen Tail next turn to take 2 prizes?
Well, yes, but that's a great question.
Because this Mew is in prime position to get knocked out, and
that is a great question, my friend. Fabrizio. Unable to see the victory.
Would you agree it was right there, yeah?
It was right there. We're going to retreat out of our multi-prize Mew EX into a Noctowl.
Okay. Can go Jamming Tower and get rid of the Mew to not get knocked out by the Scream Tail. Gonna Jamming Tower for the knockout. Has to remove the Mew to not get Scream Tail bullied. Okay. Fair enough. Promotes the Gardevoird, as we did see.
Yeah, we knew that was happening. These 2 prize cards don't change anything.
And Energy Switch.
No, Energy Switch, not the pieces that he needed. He knew that, though. He knew what he had access to. Even his final prize card, Pikachu EX, wouldn't have changed anything. Energy onto Noctowl, perhaps.
I would rather attach onto the sensitivity in this case, meaning that you can next turn then Crispin.
Yeah. But no energy whatsoever. We're just going to reset
yourself
the hands.
To 1?
Just 1 card now for Fabrizio.
And you just removed your Mew, though.
You did. You had to.
Yeah, agreed. You definitely had to do that, but it just feels so bad ioning yourself to 1. And I think it's double energy.
It's the pass.
The pass over
Turn
last
3,
turn
Ricardo.
of the game. Does Ricardo have it here? Counter catcher. And it's going to work enough because you can go ahead, use the Psychic Embrace on Gardevoird, use the Monkey Dory to remove 3 damage counters off it, put it onto Festivity, and you can use the Gardevoird's attack, deal 190 with Miracle Force, taking down this top 4. And yes, when you get the chance to do so, of course, that's Ricardo. You got to take whatever chance you get to do it. And we do see Ricardo Covello advancing into our finals here at the Bologna Special Championships.
What an unlikely comeback for Ricardo. Had such a tough time in that game 3. Barely found a Ralts until, what was it, turn 3 or 4. And was able to just about hang on in there as we get into the replay of the entire series. Game 1, Ricardo had the best opener possible. Found the TM Evolution, was able to get up immediately into the Rabska in addition to one of his Curlier, and that really set him up in that game number 1.
Exactly. The game number 1 was functioning as it should be. Going in here, getting some attack damage on, and it was going back and forth all the time. We were looking at, first we were like, yeah, so Fabrizio's gonna win this, Ricardo's gonna win this, and Ricardo being able to pull it back since Fabrizio was just running out of resources later in that game. It's something that these terrestrial boxes can fall prey to, is running out of resources. And we do see it here, Fabrizio scooping up to conclude the game 1.
In game 2, quite the different story with Fabrizio just about staying in the game with Ultra Ball to grab his fan Rotom to get him into the game in the first place, and he was launching some aggressive torrential pumps straight away. Yes, it was only a single prize KO, but he importantly took out the Relor and kept his options available to him, as Ricardo found it difficult to get into the Gardevoird EX. No rare candy shenanigans whatsoever, which allowed Fabrizio to pull ahead, and he had this miraculous restart for 2 cards, finding the energy switch to attack all in 1 turn with the trapped Terrapagos EX, and it was a boss's orders to close out that final prize card, taking us to a game 3.
And after such an awkward game 2 from Ricardo, must be thinking, yes, this is time where we can get a better start. Gets to a position with just a Clefairy play with 120 damage as the only Pokemon in play, getting that research finally, getting to try and set up the board and use the Leader's Clefairy. Gonna counter catch up this Wellspring Ogerpon. The Pokemon's been bullying your entire board. And take the knockout onto it, getting rid of that Sparkling Crystal from play, which has been such an issue, and ending up in a position with 2 prizes left, and then going into the last turn for Fabrizio in this game. Such an incredible decision from the Noctowl that could have been there, but unfortunately doesn't quite see the line.